thing hasn't popped up. It has popped
there,
up now.
There it is.
There we are. We are live. Johnny and the Greg. How is everybody doing on a Tuesday? Sorry about that, folks.
On a Tuesday. Johnny was on vacation.
I was. We
didn't bother telling anybody before he went.
It was just a little impromptu. Head up to the Dells. Spend about 4 days. You know, things like that.
4 days.
By the way, actually, you know what? I'm gonna let you talk about our sponsor, and then I got a question for you and all the guys out there that are listening to us.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, Greg.
So we are partnered with Audible. If you like audiobooks, if you like to listen to books, which I love, I retain a lot more through verbal direction than I do just reading. It's part of a dyslexia piece. I've always been that way. I still love like reading a book. It just takes me a good long time to get through it. And sometimes you don't have the kind of time in your day when you work full time and you're a dad and everything else. It's by the time you get down to, sitting with a book, like I would read 2 or 3 pages and I'd want to fall asleep. So, but I find, as we were just talking about, doing like the dad work around the house, things that got to get done. And also I do most of the cooking in the house. So I love having like an audiobook or a podcast or something just in my ear as I'm doing that kind of thing. And you can do that too. Like I said, we're partnered with Audible. So you can go to audibletrial.com/JATG and get 30-day trial Audible. And it's totally on us. What you do is that you log in, you get your account. Anything that you buy while you're doing that trial, you get to keep. So it's not like you buy 2 or 3 books and you're getting ready to go through them and like, oops, you didn't get through that last book that you bought. That's okay. Like if you decide to cancel, those are yours to keep. You can still go back and listen to them through the Audible app at any time. So go in, check it out, try out some things. They got a lot of free stuff on there too. If you don't really want to purchase anything, podcasts are on there and try it out. I mean, it's just a great service. I love it. A lot of people I know, a lot of even like executive people I know, like our executive leadership team, they do a lot of Audible. They do a lot of podcasts because again, it's, they're busting their hump on a treadmill or something like that, but they can still be taking in some information. Mm-hmm. So audibletrial.com/JATG. Check it out.
Boom. There you go. So the question I want to throw out to all the men out there, because I was on vacation, and before you go on vacation, you got to pack. Mm-hmm. And my wife said to me, "Is that the swimsuit you're bringing?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Is that the only one?" I said, "I only own one." And she goes, "What?" She goes, I said, "I only own one." She goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "This is my swimsuit. This is the only one I have." That's what I mean by that. And that's all I'm packing. So my question to you fellas out there is, and to you, the Greg, how many swimsuits do you own and how many do you actually pack to go, I don't know, to the beach in or swimming or the Wisconsin Dells or water slides? How many do you pack?
Honestly, I pack 2. And it's just because I owned one swimsuit like most of my life.
Right. Doesn't that what happens?
Yeah. And you put it on, you keep it on. I mean, if you're doing water stuff, it's on most of the day.
Right.
And you hang it up at night and the next day you put it on again.
Right.
And that's
even if it's damp.
Even if it's damp,
put it on,
you just put it on. That's what you deal with.
Right. And so what happened? What happened that made you get 2?
One was an incredible amount of weight loss. So that was one thing. And another thing was after that incredible amount of weight loss because it didn't all it doesn't fall off in a month. So I had one that is, I mean, it's a little bit big on me now, but it's got drawstrings. So you just cinch it up nice and tight and it still works. Right. And then I've got my other one that actually is the one that fits that's the first one I put on. And usually the one that lasts, most of the vacation. Right. But if it's, my wife, who I love dearly, is also very prepared for any eventuality when we go on vacation. So, so part of that is you're going to have another one just in case a gator tries to bite me in the ass and rips my swimsuit off, I need to have another one.
Right. Makes sense.
So
Yes.
That's why I got two.
Okay. So basically what you're telling me, and I'm not making fun of you, but I'm just factually, is because your wife told you to. Yeah. Okay. So I want to throw that question out to anybody that's listening to us right now. I know we're on Tuesday, so we might not have a lot of live viewers right now, but do you guys pack only one swimsuit or do you guys pack a lot? Like I happen to know one guy.
Yeah.
I didn't make fun of him. I just noticed it. I didn't even notice it out loud. I just noticed into my head that, wow, he has like 4. That's weird. I was like, that's weird.
That's a lot.
But I mean, girls, I get it. Whatever. Like, I don't understand it. And I'm not even going to try to understand it. But if there's a lady out there that can actually explain it to us, any of our lady listeners out there that can actually explain the purpose of having more than one swimsuit or more than 2, because my wife has like 1 for each day.
Okay.
Which is, I think it's just, I'm sorry. I love you, sweetheart. I love you so much. And we had such a good time, but that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
I just think it's weird.
It also, because I know your life and I love her to death too. She's the size of a stick. So literally her swimsuits are like.
Yeah. And Gwen had a good time. You know how they tie at the hip? They tie at the hip. Gwen had a great time yanking it.
That's she had a great time
doing it. Gwen is getting mischievous now.
Well, yeah, she's 4.
Like she's noticing shit like, oh, mom doesn't like that, but I don't get in that much trouble if I do it. I'm going to fuck with her. That's what she does.
That's funny.
So it is funny. But yeah, we had a good time. Went to the Wisconsin Dells. It's kind of it's kind of like the Las Vegas of the Midwest, I feel.
Well, it's just everybody. I mean, you grew up close enough to here in this area. We call it the Dells.
Yeah.
So you grew up close enough to the Dells.
Are you considered in the Dells?
No. It's a good hour.
That'd be like Baraboo or something, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Dells is far enough away that it's still a vacation spot.
You were talking about in general, like Wisconsin.
Growing up, yeah. So if you live in Wisconsin, and I think I haven't spent a lot of time in like super northern Wisconsin or anything like that, where it would be like literally a 4 to 6 hour drive to get to the Dells.
Yeah.
So I haven't spent a lot of time up there where the people like maybe they do get super excited about going to the Dells, but for us and for me, where I've always lived within 2 hours of the Dells, it's been like, yeah, it's there. Yeah, I mean, we go.
America.
Yeah, you go, you have a good time and whatever. Yeah. But there are people that come from all over the United States to the Dells. Like they want that, the nation's a water park capital or the water park capital of the world. They want that experience. And so like when I see people with license plates from like Arizona or, Montana, Utah, like those states away from Wisconsin. And I'm like, well, what brought you here? They're like, it's the Dells. Like they
you ever sit there and think to yourself, is it disappointing? Is it?
Yeah, because
really
the Dells,
it was this?
I mean, I follow a couple of TikTokers where they're just like, the Dells is trash. Like this is a trash vacation. Now that's not to say that there aren't a lot of good things at the Dells and that it's, it can be a good time, but like it's a little bit like, I think if you live in Orlando and you go to Disney and then you realize like some of those hotels at Disney, like they realize you're just sleeping there.
Yes.
And so they don't renovate, they don't make it super nice, and that's the same thing at the time.
I think anybody that sits there and calls the Dells like a trash vacation, they've been there multiple times.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that. When you go to a same space multiple times, it becomes it's what we do every Labor Day type thing instead of something fresh and exciting. We did a bunch of different things that we've never done before, and we had a blast this time. Gwen's getting at that age where she's starting to, I don't want to say mature because she's as goofy as a 4-year-old is ever going to be, but like we went to I was telling you, we went to that Buffalo Phil's.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Where they have a train
bring you your food.
Yeah. Gwen thought that was amazing, as all 4-year-olds would. And she had I think it's called the baby shark, where it comes out in a little bowl with ice cube that lights up. You know, she just thought that was amazing. It's really a kid cocktail.
It's Ginchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to see the Lego set that was set up of Star Wars?
I don't remember that. No, it's been a couple of years since I've been there.
I think I deleted the video because I thought you said you've been there. There's an entire room
really
dedicated to a guy that set up like all the big Star Wars of the main three, not the like other ones, of the main three, where he has like all of these. He has like Tatooine, the what was that the ice planet of Hoth, the battle. They had the thing where like Vader says like the sky city or something like that, or Cloud City,
Bespin.
Yeah, they had all this stuff, and I was like, that's why I texted you yesterday. I was like, Greg, have you been here? Because this is kind of badass. And I'm not a Star Wars fan, but they had the Millennium Falcon together. They had all this cool shit. And I thought, what are the things called? Star Destroyers. That's what it was. Yeah. I thought, that was so cool.
I know
the way they set that up was great.
Sometime in Milwaukee, they have a Lego. It's not really a convention. It's more like a show.
Yeah.
Where you go in and they like these super builders have done entire scenes, and it's not just like you say they have a Star Destroyer, and yes, there is a Star Destroyer set, but they've either improved on it or they've made their own or whatever it is, and that's what they do, and it is super impressive.
What's really impressive is the guy was telling me at the Lego set, he says it took the build, and I guess this guy's a professional Lego builder.
A brick master, they call it.
A brick master. According to him, it took him a year to design it, create it. It took him 3 days to build it. Now, if anybody's a Lego builder out there, or anybody that has information on this, Ursula and I were kind of blown away that it only took 3 days. We were like, really? This took 3 days? Like, this would take a week, I would think. But
maybe he had a lot of it pre-built.
Maybe
like that.
Maybe
that diorama or whatever you like to call it was pieced together in 3 days.
Yeah. Okay. So so we went there, and Gwen we went to something in the wilderness called Take Flight or something like that.
Yeah, I just did that with my family. Yeah,
that was cooler than I ever thought it was going to be.
Okay.
We did the world tour where we went through 7 continents of all, like, all the big things.
Maybe I can't remember which one we did, but
it was okay. It was, to us, it was really
where
cool. Gwen had a great time.
Where we sat, like, and this is if you've ever been to Disneyland, California Adventures, and they call it, I think it's Flight Over California. It's the same technology. Or if you've done Disney World, Animal Kingdom, the Avatar ride, the from the Blue People Avatar, roughly the same experience, where it's a giant IMAX screen that's kind of domed, and so if you're sitting in the right spot, you look left, you look right, all you see is screen. Where they sat us was on the far edge, so I looked to my right and I saw a hallway. Like, I could see the edge of the screen. So I didn't get the full effect.
No, we got. And I was
like, it's kind of so
we got the full effect. So, sorry to hear that. Anywho, that's kind of what we did there. So
in water parks, probably you hit up, because you're at the wilderness, right? You go out.
We went to every water park that was there. You know what? For the water park capital of the world, I've never been to Noah's Ark and have no need to want to go there. It doesn't seem fun every time I drive past it. It looks horrible.
Well, you don't, like, when you drive past it, you see hardly any of it. Like, it goes very far back into that piece of land that they're on. That being said, like, we've done it once, like with the kids, and they were like, yeah, that was fun. We don't need to do that one again.
Yeah. I just got a feeling like it would be like that. And I get the feeling like, okay, you got this water park that I'm in the resort, and whatever resorts, water parks we have here, and then we got Noah's Ark. I'm thinking, I can't imagine, because I feel like it's a day at Great America where you're spending the majority of your day in line.
It can be, like if you're doing a lot of those rides, you're spending a lot of time in line. They do have one thing. It's called a water coaster, which was a unique experience.
Okay.
where I was on it with the kids. And so there's 4 of us in like this, almost like a toboggan type, like an inflatable toboggan
Okay.
with sides.
Yeah.
And so, but you go down one part of the water slide, yay, that's fun. And then it hits you on like a treadmill that will shoot you through like another part of the ride. And like, then it shoots you up, you go through like a waterfall, do some roundy kind of stuff.
Okay. So it did
hit
things
another
you didn't
one.
expect it to do.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Okay.
But I remember, I mean, I wear contacts. So like, I remember like I spent half the time going, oh, because it's right in the face. And you're like, oh,
okay.
I can't see. Oh, I can't see again. Yep, it's like that. So
their whole thing is, did you have fun? No, I couldn't see anything. Yeah, but you felt it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like that.
You heard the screams.
And we did excuse me, we've done Mount Olympus, which is right across the road from
go-karts.
We've done that a couple times. Yeah, that's got more of the, if you don't want to be in the water, there's more stuff to do at Mount Olympus, go-karts, coasters, things like that. And it's a little bit cheaper to get into. The cabanas were a lot cheaper.
Okay.
And we felt they were both cheaper and better run than the ones at Noah's Ark. And I mean, but for all of that, like my kids that are now, all teenagers, they're not interested in doing a lot of water park stuff anymore. We went back, we went to the Dells beginning of the summer just as hey guys, let's try to get away somewhere. But as a collective, we said we want to do things in the Dells that we've never done before.
Right.
And we did a whole show on that. I think it's back in June we did that. You can go back and listen to that if you want. So yeah, that was what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a great time. And to kind of shift toward move along here, something amazing happened that doesn't mean a damn thing, but I was very happy. And I think a couple of people out there. So people, there's a certain subject that most of our viewers don't like.
But here we go.
In there, yeah. It won't last long. Here we go.
I can't hear a thing.
That's right, folks. The Chicago Bears are 3-0 in a preseason, and it doesn't matter. But I'm still excited, sir, because I see
knew you would be
great things ahead of us. I just don't think they're going to happen this year. But I think we're building something special. And I'm going to just put it out here right now, and I could be wrong, and all of you could be laughing at me. But we play San Francisco first game, Green Bay Packers the second game, which Greg and I will both be at. Mm-hmm. And I am predicting we will win one of those 2 games. We're predicted not to. We're predicted to actually go 0-16 by all the experts, and I guarantee you we are not the worst team in the league.
Well, and that's because are you changing your stance on, because you thought you would win 5 games this season?
No, I'm still there.
You're still there? Still at 5?
I'm still there. Okay. I still think we're going to go 5-6 games, but here's the difference. It's not going to be, and there's a pun intended in this. It's not going to be embarrassing as it was the last couple of years. Okay. We're not going to get blown out. I think we're going to have these games where, damn, you were so close, but you just did this or this happened or this happened. I think that's what's going to happen this year. But guys, I think it's going to be a very long year, but this year is all about building the culture, developing the players, and then we'll see what the future holds.
It's a reload year. It's a reload year.
No, we are rebuilding 100%.
You are.
I think the general manager has, out of 53 men, he brought in 30 new. Yeah. And they were and I think 11 of them were rookies. So keep that in mind.
So
anyway, I'm encouraged. I'm excited.
Yep. With every right, you should be. And to the game we're going to, and you and I had even talked about this, like if they're gonna beat the Packers, it's gonna be in that game 1.
It has to be in the beginning of the season.
We hope Rodgers and that receiving core have a rhythm before we get to that game, but we don't know. So we'll see.
When he's saying he's talking about him and all the Packer fans out there. I don't care if he has a rhythm. In fact, I hope they're horribly.
You hope he's off. Yeah.
Yes.
I again, I'm not a huge Rodgers fan, but at the same time, I don't want to go to a Packer game and watch them lose. So,
of course, hey, I get that.
So I would. It's going to be a great game.
I was the same way with Jay Cutler and the Bears.
Yeah.
I hated Cutler, but I didn't want to see the Bears lose. But anyway,
question from a listener, John.
Yes.
Have you received your cookies?
No. I have not received the cookies.
All right.
I forgot all about it, and now that I have
now
been
you
reminded,
just really want some cookies. Yeah.
Now I'll be honest. I'm more disappointed than mad. I just pulled a bomb.
That's good. That's good.
No, I'm looking forward to them. I'm assuming they're soon. I'm assuming
maybe
even if you made me one cookie, Mrs. Truly, nailed it, I would be floored because I think that's just a great gesture. So
I'm gonna make one of anything, but all right. Well, gauntlet thrown there. See what happens.
Balls in your court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about that. Talked about sports.
Yes. So sports is over, guys. We can move on now.
Yeah. Hopefully, we didn't lose too many of you.
No, not at all.
So interesting enough, I ran a little social experiment.
Yes, you did. I saw comments.
Okay, but it's not. we're gonna get to that. We're gonna cover the actual topics that I talked about, but so starting with John and I went down to Gen Con, which was at the beginning of this month. Things were heating up a little bit in the political space here in the US. I mean, Trump's home of Mar-a-Lago had been searched. There was the Roe v. Wade stuff was kind of really up and going again, which was affecting Gen Con. So that part of that conversation. And then most recently, the student loan repayment piece went out there. And for the most part, on my personal Facebook page, I have not gotten real political very often. And I mostly don't because I want to keep it fun. I want to keep it light. I want to share jokes, share memes, talk about music, do that kind of stuff rather than have big heated conversations with whoever I'm connected with on Facebook. But I ran a little social experiment going, I post a picture of like my kids and I'll get 10 comments.
Right.
And maybe, a couple different, out of those 10 comments, maybe 20 to 30 likes or interactions or something like that.
Right.
So I said, well, let's pick and choose. Let's post a couple things. And I started light with a joke about the Mar-a-Lago. I marked myself as safe from the FBI Mar-a-Lago raid.
Okay.
And what are you doing there? Are you checking something out or?
I was checking to see how many comments are currently right now.
Okay. Well, that's what I was doing before we got going.
Okay.
So
the numbers. Go ahead.
And that started a conversation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Some people back and forth. But it wasn't real high. So then I had a comment on just about us being at Gen Con. And I had a comment on how Gen Con in the next couple of years might see a shift in where they're located, depending on how the state does their Roe v. Wade or like abortion laws, because that was a hot button topic.
Mm-hmm.
That generated some conversation. And then I posted about just some facts about here are the things that taxpayers have repaid, in my lifetime, like corporate bailouts and paying for wars and a couple different things. And that got a lot of conversation. So in total, I had over 150 comments when I posted like some real politically driven kind of things.
Yeah.
Which to me shows y'all really don't give a shit about having fun on Facebook. You're there for the argument.
Yes.
So I just wanted, that was an interesting thing to point out. And I was just like, yeah, some of y'all are just here to talk shit and, drop what you think are bombs, thinking that that's going to convince anybody of anything. And it's not going to. No one changed their opinion because they go, oh, you know what? Random uncle posted something that was just really insightful on Facebook. And now, yep, I've changed my political position.
Yeah. I
That
would be
doesn't
shocked
happen.
if that ever happens, actually.
It has never happened. I mean,
No.
if it has, I would be shocked. If it has happened to you, please post something on our stream.
Well,
here,
first off, it's
because
never happened to you where you actually stopped, read what they said, and went, okay, I've changed my mind.
Mhm.
You. Because like that's what conversation is kind of about sometimes when you have these.
Right. These aren't conversations though. These
You're
are
right.
these are darts.
These are
darts where people are
jumping
just
up on your
throwing them at you, seeing what sticks, and then moving on. I've invited people to have conversations with me. I'm like, hey,
on the podcast.
Actually not on the podcast because I didn't want to bring that in, but yeah, if we want to have those conversations on a podcast, I think we're open to it. But this is more like of a family member, that I haven't really talked to in the past 6 years is, up in arms about something. I'm like, hey, if you want to have a conversation with me for once, open to it. And then there's crickets. So yeah, I just thought that was real interesting. And part of the reason I bring it up now is like I did this as a social experiment was even people that I really value their opinion were like, wow, kind of stirring the hornet's nest a little bit out there on Facebook. And I was like, I don't want to tell them I'm doing this little experiment, but that's what it's been. But yeah, it was just really,
interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, do I go back to not sharing my thoughts and opinions on things or picking sides just to stir people up? Or
I think it's a good question. I think it's a question that everybody asks themselves. Here's my opinion on it. Don't stop giving your opinion. For some reason you get a lot of people, if they don't agree with you, they're going to talk down to you versus that's interesting. Why would you say that? Or just looking at your point of view and going, okay, I can see where he's coming from. I don't come from that space, so I don't feel that way, which is, I think, a lot of what happens.
Sure.
And what we're basically talking about, guys, is when Biden passed the law of like getting rid of student loan.
Yeah, well, we're going to go deep into that in a little bit. So,
okay, then I'll save that part. But I think where we lose as a society is when we just decide to not say anything for fear of it causing a storm or for fear of it causing divide. The problem is, I think everybody needs to understand that it's okay if Greg feels a certain way and Johnny feels a different way. It doesn't make Greg or Johnny bad people. It doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them like one or the other a bad guy.
It doesn't make us idiots.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is that people just say you're dumb as hell, or even worse,
right?
Like, you stupid son of a bitch, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. The people that decide to, I would say, the people that decide to come at you hardcore, like nasty, like if they're swearing at you, I'd block them. What the fuck? What do you need something like that for?
Yeah.
They're not there to add any type of what's where
they're not even adding to the conversation. They are
what
shouting.
They're trying to do is they're
shouting into the ether of the internet.
Because I talk louder, I'm right. That's not how that works. Never.
Or they martyr themselves. That's another thing.
Right. Oh yeah, the martyr. Like, I'm an asshole because I think this way. Okay.
It's and for a lot of people, they're kind of like, well, you said it.
Yeah. Which is true. I mean, if you're gonna fall on that sword and pretend like you have nothing else to say because whatever, they made you think your point of the whole point of conversations from opposite sides is to understand where each other's coming from. It doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean that you're gonna get your mind changed or they're gonna change their mind. It's that so you have an understanding that not everybody's the same.
Nobody's
the same place.
I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people do not seek to understand the other side,
right.
Or if they think they are, they're really not. They're just what they're doing is gathering ammunition for when it's their turn to talk again, which is a very different thing. And there's, on Audible, you can get a book called Crucial Conversations and Active Listening, and it is fantastic. And I suggest everybody do that.
Did you feel attacked?
A couple times.
Yeah.
because they
Did you
were
feel attacked from someone that you were surprised they were attacking you?
not surprised, but at the same time, it's kind of like, if it's family or something like that. My brother did a great job of like, hey, I don't understand this. Tell me who benefits. Tell me how this works out.
Good for
so
him.
He did a great job of that.
Yeah, good for
but
him.
Then there were other people on there, like my next door neighbor, who I've had 2 conversations with, and started to follow me on Facebook. And I was like, oh, she's my neighbor. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Not knowing what her politics were at all, she went off and complete with bad grammar, and just kind of, I'm like, wow, you're really mad. And you don't know what a period is. So I mean, it's stuff like that where, the neighbor you never talk to is like, you stupid sons of bitches. And I'm like, really?
Whoa.
Really? Because like we share a property line. Like,
yeah,
you don't want this to go south.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
mean, it does.
No. And so I just, you go, okay. But so that's, I mean, and that's kind of the hot button topic for the night that we're gonna dig into here. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up,
hang on, last thing before moving any forward, don't change who you are, or I mean, like, your page is your page.
Oh, it's my sandbox for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you are allowed to post whatever you want. And anybody that doesn't like it, you can stop following him, or you can actually, I don't know, challenge yourself and go, hey, interesting, because I completely disagree with you. Where are you coming from?
Yeah. I did post a picture that I got from my friend Buzz. And he and I differentiate on a lot of different topics, but I love him to death. I took a little thing because I was like, ooh, after the first couple, I'm like, people are getting harsh. So I posted a picture that said, what's on my wall may not agree with what's in your heart. And like, just remember, you chose to be here. Yeah. Like, this is like, you friended me, you chose to be here. Right. So hopefully that works out. But part of the other thing that about this experiment, and I think this is important for people to know, that so if I share a picture, a GIF, a screenshot from, let's say, one political group's webpage, or from a webpage that supports that political group, each interaction on that picture, even though I'm the one that shared it, is driving the algorithm back to that group. So when people are arguing on my page about, let's say, the student loan forgiveness program, and the more people want to argue, the more that's driving the algorithm back to this group that supports it. So go ahead and shout all you want, because that is actually helping that group's page by so many interactions, which means they're going to pop up from here on out. Their information is going to pop up more on the people that argue. And a lot of people don't,
because it fuels.
Yeah, it fuels it. And a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah. So, I mean, if I was a real asshole, I would just keep the conversation going to drive the algorithm to the page that I support. And
there are people that get paid to actually do that.
People get paid to do it. It's also a hacker way that a lot of cyber attacks and things like that. I think they found, it was a really high percentage. It was like over 70% of either far right pages or Christian pages are actually fake accounts that go back to countries we don't like.
Right.
And Russia.
They're trying to stir the pot of America.
One. They are. They're trying to, it was actually used during the Cold War. It's a misinformation campaign that now with the internet has made it so easy to do. So watch where you're sharing stuff from. Yeah. We talked about that before.
Not only that, it's the same thing with the text. Okay. There's a great bit by Key and Peele, and I shared it with Greg, where a conversation can be taken completely the wrong way. So when you're reading a comment, they could be meaning it one way, and however you're reading it, depending on what mood you're in, depending on what you want from the conversation, you can completely take it a different way. And that's what's dangerous about this, is that you're reading words, you're not reading help me out, Greg. You're not reading emotions.
There's no tone.
It.
There's no body language.
Yeah.
I sent you a text today, and it was a group text with some other friends that said it was a Gordon Ramsay. Oh, fuck off.
Right.
Like,
right.
But because you know me.
Yes.
And you know how I sent that.
Yes.
It wasn't taken offensively. But
Correct.
if I send that to somebody else, they're going to be like, oh, that was harsh.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, and so just be careful with that, people. Just understand you're reading words and you don't know how they're coming across.
Yeah.
Unless they tell you like flat out, fuck off, then you know how that's coming across.
Yeah, you know how that's coming across.
Yeah. But you look like you're reading at something.
Well, I was just clicking on a couple comments we got.
Mrs. Truly, when did you send those cookies?
Maybe she's on, maybe she's not. I don't know. I don't know if she's hip to the.
She heard political and she shut off.
I don't know. She just wasn't prepared for a Tuesday night podcast.
Who was?
So about the student loan stuff.
Yes.
Let's dig into that.
Biden did a thing.
Biden did a thing. So the program is if you received student loans, federal student loans, anybody that has received them is going to get 10 grand knocked off their loan amount. So
if you made a certain amount of money,
right? No. If
you're making a certain amount of money, right?
No. So it's anybody that has a federal student loan,
okay,
is going to get 10K knocked off. If you have what's called Pell Grants, which Pell Grants were, you went to college, you got a Pell Grant because your family did not make enough money. And so the government granted you, here's, I think they're about $1,000. Here's $1,000 for a year. So $500 a semester for you to go to college. So if you received a Pell Grant and you make less than 125 grand a year, that you have 20,000 knocked off your student loan balance. It, for some people, it'll put a dent in it. For some people, it might actually forgive the whole thing. And for some people, it's nice, but they're still going to have quite a bit to pay back. Now, does this affect you at all? Do you have any student loans left?
No. No.
So, but you did. So you've paid yours off.
I did. We paid ours off before I was, I think, within 6 years of me graduating.
Okay, good. So you and Ula both done, right? You don't have anything left. Yes. So I still have a lot of mine. In fact, I have almost the full amount of mine because of predatory lending practices. And I've been out of school for 20 years.
Predatory lending practices.
Yes. So
dive into that.
So this has happened to a lot of people. And by the way, I will not benefit from this. I will not, because I would be in the category of the 20 grand. I won't get anything from this because it goes active. The application opens in October and you have to have your application in, I believe, by the end of December. But as soon as I did some checking and realized that I'm not going to benefit, and I'll tell you why in a minute, that I stopped checking into it. So predatory lending practices. For me, and this story I have heard repeated multiple times on social media, from anybody from a person that works at a nonprofit to a New York doctor, have said that this has happened to them, that they got out of college, they've made their payments like religiously. And at the end of however long the doctor was, about 10 years, I'm at about 20 years, they actually owe the same amount to the government than when they got out. And the reason for that is, like, my loans, when I got out, it was, you pick your payment plan, you start paying. I was told while I was in school, as soon as I changed my major to education, which was after about my first year of college. So I went to my first year of college, I was a business major, and then I changed my major to special education. And as soon as I changed my major to special education, every lender, including the people at the college that were supposed to have my best interests in mind, and my academic advisor, who's supposed to have my best interests in mind, were saying, take out every loan that they offer you, because you are going to be a special education teacher and you have special programs that you can get into, where because you're a special ed teacher, you will pay on your loans for 10 years, and then the rest of that balance will be forgiven if you've taught special education this whole time. And that is
a lie.
Yes, it was a big fat lie. They told this to special education teachers, people that taught in low income districts, people that like military. So the public service, if you qualify for the public service forgiveness program, that all that group of people, it includes, and it also includes doctors that work in like low income areas or specialize in certain
like
practices.
clinics and free clinics and stuff
free
like
clinics, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yep. The idea was, I mean, especially for doctors where they're paying, well over $100,000 for their education.
Right. Yeah.
Years and years, work their ass off. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they're going to make a ton of money, because they're choosing to work in these high need areas that work for 10 years in this high need area, and we will forgive the rest of your loans. So what happened to me was people started to buy and sell my loans.
Okay.
So also when
Yes.
when the feds came in and said, we're going to take control of student loans, it was, okay, the Fed has contracted with this lender, and now this lender has your loan. Okay.
Simpler, same thing they do with like mortgages, where your mortgage is bought
and sold around different people. Yep. So, okay, fine. New lender. They're like, a new lender would say, okay, so you're in special education, so the public service thing, you count for this, and it'll start with your first payment with us. And you go, oh no, I've been paying for 3 years religiously already. That should count. They're like, no, it's going to reset.
Oh,
It's going to reset. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have a choice in that. They're like, nope, it's just going to reset. So it's going to take you 13 years.
What does that mean, actually? Like,
so all those 3 years of payments no longer count towards that forgiveness program. I had to start over again.
Oh shit. Okay.
So you go
for 3 years. Now you're not. Now
you're not.
So you have 7 years left. You have 10 years.
You have 10. Restarted my 10.
Oh.
So then I paid for about 8 years, religiously all the time. We made an extra payment, like 2 payments in a month, and their accounting practices did not allow that. So, because I was trying to pay off a bigger chunk of my principal, right?
Yes.
And they said, no, that doesn't work. Applied it some other way that kicked me out of the program. Because now it looked like they're like, well, no, something, and you missed a payment. I said, I didn't miss a payment. I've got receipts here for 2 payments that month.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you missed a payment. No, I did not. And I'm dealing with a call center that is
from India or something.
Correct. Yes. Not in this country.
Right. So they're just getting the script.
Right. It took me, I don't know how many hours I was on hold back and forth. And finally I'm like, are you seeing this screen? And I had to read off the payment number. Yes. And you're seeing this payment. Yes. Why does that kick me out of a program? Well, because the program was you make 1 payment a month. I'm like, so I made 2. Who cares? Why? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That kicked me out of the program. 10-year sets again.
Oh my God. So it's
now,
like these little traps.
All these little traps. Now, and I just, there's nothing you can do. There's literally nothing you can do, because then eventually now it's the government. It's like, how do you sue? And there's people say you sue the government, but you call a lawyer. That all takes money. I'm still a teacher.
Well, now you're paying off a student loan plus a lawyer fee.
I'm still a teacher. And
we know how slow that wheel turns.
We've got kids now.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's raking in money enough to go hire a lawyer and pay up front to have that. And they're like, well, then do a class action suit. Well, then that isn't cheap either. Like, that doesn't start cheap. So there's a lot of these stories out there. I'm not the only one. That when the PSLF program that the Biden administration came in and said, fix it. And that came as a result of a 60 Minutes story, 60 Minutes or 2020, one of the two, where military people were getting screwed over like this. So they set up an auto payment that's going to get drawn from their account while they're deployed. So they're over in the Middle East fighting and doing their jobs. And they set up an auto deduct from their account to pay for their student loan so that they stay in the program. The people that were running that program, this is how crooked these assholes were. They would take, so let's for nice round numbers, for easy math, yeah. Let's say their payment was $150 a month, probably a lot more than that, but let's say it was $150 a month. The people that were doing the auto deduct were taking out $149.97, shorting it by 3 cents. That kicked them out of the program because they weren't making a full payment.
So somebody went in there and only took out
and these deployments, sometimes they're 6 months, sometimes they're a year. So then they get home, start making their payments again, and they're like, wait, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Why do these 12 payments no longer count? And sometimes it was, they're like, I'm done. I got it. Here's all my paperwork. Here's my stuff. And the program would go, but you see here, this year's worth of payments, those weren't actually full payments. They're like, but I was deployed. That was auto deducted. You guys were taking that out of my account automatically. Yeah, but it was 3 cents short. So because you failed now to pay 36 cents total out of that year, 3 times
none of
12,
that
36,
year counts.
None of that year counts. And so since it was the military and enough of them were getting screwed this way, that is what sparked the public outrage, and Biden had to do something about it.
Wow.
So the reason I will not benefit from this new 10K or 20K payout is that the PSLF program is fixed. Like, kind of like I applied for my PSLF back in December of last year. They're still checking my records. They've got most of it done.
Yeah.
They're saying that I'm 20 payments short, but out of my last 7 years, my last employer that I worked for almost 7 years, they're like, we're still verifying them as a nonprofit, even though the paperwork's in, everything's there. So
they're dragging their heels.
And
meanwhile, you still have to pay these payments.
I was a little nervous because if it came out, like the original deadline to start repayments was at the end of this month. It was today, actually. And I was talking with these people. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. They're like, and they can see, like the lady I'm talking to can see, no, I can see it. It's in our system. We're just waiting for them to do the final due diligence and get it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay like the payment that you would want from me at the end of August. I'm not going to pay that if you're telling me this is going to be forgiven.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, but is that going to kick me out of a program then? Because that's what you assholes had done before. I didn't call her an asshole. It's not her fault.
I understand. Yeah.
But that was the system. And no, and now the payment pauses out until December, which I should be out of by that point. So the other thing is, I want to know how you feel. Like, you've paid off your loans, you paid off your wife loans. And from what I've done in the research, if they don't find a way to balance the sheet and have to pay this payment on to the taxpayers, that isn't, there's nothing that says your taxes are absolutely going to go up.
Yeah.
Not yet, because they could find that money somewhere else in a budget.
They can, but I don't think they will.
They certainly can. They might. I don't know. I'm not saying for sure, but it's going to be a little over $900 and a one-time fee on your taxes to knock that off. I mean, that if you're a taxpayer in this country, it's a little under or a little over $900.
How do I feel about that?
How do you feel about that?
It's a good question, because I'm in a situation right now where I'm talking to you and I've heard how you're getting scammed.
Yep.
Basically. So of course, as a friend, I want to help out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many people out there who, and this is how our society is. We're very, what about me? If it doesn't affect me, I don't give a shit. And if it affects me in a way where I know I'm helping somebody, but I don't think anybody looks at anybody as I'm helping a neighbor out. I think they look at it as I'm helping that motherfucker who's never paid his student loans. And he's getting away with it. Because for everybody that's like you, Greg, there are people that aren't like you, and they're taking advantage of the system some way, somehow. And I think those are the people that get highlighted. It's not the people like you. It's the people that get highlighted about. Now, those beggars on street corners, I can never give money to anybody that's on a street corner, because I've seen too many 2020 episodes where they're getting into their Mercedes at the end of the day and they're driving home.
Yeah.
So there's very much that's in my head. How do I feel? I told you in a car ride when we were having a talk about this, I'd be okay bailing out my community if I knew my community would benefit from it than bailing out a billionaire just to save his ass.
Yeah.
I don't know if that matches 100% with what's happening here, because we're talking about millions of people that are in trouble. And look, I'm on the fence, and I know that's a shitty place to be, but I understand where other people are coming from, where they're saying, oh, you're going to tax us because they couldn't fucking pay their loans. They made a choice to get those loans. They did this. It sounds like you made a choice to get your loan under, you were told one thing.
Bad advice.
Yes. You were told one thing and it turned into another.
Yeah. It was a total bait and switch.
Right. Bait and switch. And that sucks. And that's horrendous. And again, I was at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about how there's two different points of view, and it's from two different points of experience. I was lucky enough, and I understand that I was lucky enough to pay off my student loans fast, because I wasn't like you, Greg. I didn't get married right after college.
Right.
And I didn't have real adult responsibilities until I was like 30. So when I graduated college, I was 25. So I had 5 years before I had real adult responsibilities hitting me every month. So I look at it from a different point of view. And the point of view I personally look at it as is, wow, I was lucky. It sucks for everybody else who wasn't that lucky. That's how I look at it. My wife, she looks at it as a little harder. We talked about this on the car ride up. She was like, I don't see why we should have to pay for people making their own choices. And when she broke it down, I tried to get her on this podcast because I thought we might talk about this, because I thought what she says makes sense. What you say makes sense. I didn't know about that predatory thing where if you don't, or if you do a double payment, system doesn't register, and as a double payment, they register it as like you didn't give them the exact amount. So what you're saying is, even if you overpaid, that wouldn't have counted.
Yeah, because that's what I did. I was trying to knock off of the principal to try to just, because the fact that we were making a double payment a month, I don't even know how we were able to do that. But it was just something that we did, and all of a sudden, it kicked me out of a program because of their accounting errors.
Right. Okay. So my wife suggested, instead of Biden doing this, you're forgiven certain things. She said, why don't you just take away the interest and just have them go back to the principal, which I didn't have is that a good or bad? I'm not that educated in this. I don't have the finances to understand where all this is coming from. And I know where money comes from one place, it has to go to another. And and this is way out of my league. But my first thought was, I don't mind helping out my fellow man if I know it helps us out as a whole. It's just, I think the people that don't like to help out are the people that feel like, why am I working? I work hard enough for me. Why do I need to work hard enough for you?
Right.
Which I understand.
And for some people I've read, they're worried about the stress this is going to put on the economy. Like, how is this going to help out the economy? You're essentially, like, my student loan payment now would be about $450 a month, a little bit over that.
Okay.
So essentially, by me going through the forgiveness program, I'm going to have a $450 a month added into my income because I don't have that bill to pay, which means I've got that much money to put back into the economy. So
Yes.
multiply that by how many millions of people that this can affect. And you're putting a lot of money back into the economy.
I see your math. Okay. Yeah. Look, guys, we're not here to solve it today.
Mm-hmm.
I think Greg did a really good job of illustrating what a lot of people have gone through, which I wasn't aware of it. And I'm sorry, I don't have an answer right off the top of my head. So like when you said, how do you feel about this? I don't know. I'm still digesting what you had to go through.
Well, and
I'm not smart enough to figure this out financially.
A lot of people are talking about fair. That's not fair.
Okay. Let's stop for a second. Fair is a place where you judge a pig. Let's get over fair. I've been on this forever. Like, it's unfair that Alabama plays Boise State. Whatever. The shit happens. It's unfair that I grew up in poverty and somebody else grew up with a rich, with a trust fund. Whatever. The world is not fair. So don't give me this is it fair bullshit. So let's just end it there. So is it fair? Hell no. Nothing is fair. It's not supposed to. It's not. We're not built fair.
What did our parents tell us growing up? Every time we said that's not fair.
Life isn't fair.
Life isn't fair.
Correct. Now I still feel good about if I could help out my fellow man. I wish there was some sort, and you can't do this, but I wish there was some sort of filter where you could figure out the bullshitters and the people that really need it. You know what I mean? Because I don't mind giving money to people that need it. Just as long as I know the people I'm giving money to, the minute that helps them, they're going to give back to the community better.
Well, and that's why
they're going to stand on their feet. They're not going to wait for you to constantly give them handouts, and then that's their life, is waiting for you to give them a handout.
And that's why I have no problem with the public service portion of this, which is for right now, the public service loan forgiveness program, you have to work in a public service field, and there are many. This includes everything from doctors, lawyers,
military, or is that
military, okay, teachers, cops, EMTs.
What about City Hall?
Yeah, that's public service. Yeah.
Okay. So even politicians who have politicians that are getting rich off of whatever back.
See, and that's where I think there should be some more things put into place.
Okay.
Like, if you're making over a certain amount a year, and I honestly, I think the 125K is a little high, I think.
For a public servant?
Yeah, like for this forgiveness program. Like,
okay.
But if you're a public servant, like if you're a politician and you're making $200,000 a year, you shouldn't qualify for loan forgiveness, in my opinion. But that program is you have to pay for 10 years or 120 qualifying payments, and then your loans are forgiven if you have anything left over after that. So I go, okay, I can see how that works out. And like right now, like you can't default on, like, no matter what bankruptcy you would file, student loans will always be there because they're owned by the government.
Yeah.
But to me, like, they should treat it like anything else. If you pay for so long, like, it's whatever you have left, like, okay, you put in your payments, you put in your time. And that's what it used to be. Like, if you paid for, I thought it was 10 years. You've made your payments on time for 10 years, whatever's left over, that money's been and gone. But then the government took over and saw it as a source of income. And so that's why you can't default on them, or you can't do anything with them. They're not going to forgive them. So really, we're just going back to what it was in the 80s. Because there were people that, went to school in the 70s and 80s paid for 10 years, and then they go, okay, we're good. Thanks. So,
it's a shame, man. It's a
which to
shame
me
that
is some of the people that are screaming the loudest about paying off their student loans are of the generation that people went to school in the 70s and 80s, that half of their generation were able to either pay off student loans because school was a help. Like you could have a minimum wage job and pay for college in 1985. Like what you made at a minimum wage job paid for college. That's not the case anymore.
that's a big problem with our society is we've turned into a capitalist society where we're worried about us getting enough money. Like what I mean by us,
we always were capitalists, but I mean,
yes, but the individual, like it doesn't matter. Like it sucks that we can't trust our government because they're always doing something fishy behind us. Like whatever bill they signed for this forgiveness, there's other fucking sneaky shit in there that was signed off on it. That no one's going to know unless they read the fine print at the end of the day. But all I'm saying is, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Like,
well, we're now realizing the selfishness of Americans is showing through.
And it's not so much the selfishness of Americans. I think that's become a byproduct of the selfishness of our leadership.
Yeah.
We watch our leaders getting like, I don't know how many
we watch our leaders become millionaires while they're in public office.
Yeah.
Like they go in there. Yeah. Maybe you've got some money, like maybe you're making $100,000 a year. And then during your first 10 years in office, you've become a millionaire.
Yeah.
That's fishy as hell.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like we watch our, like I said, like you were saying, like we watch our leaders. We watch our leaders go in there with the best intentions and we hope this guy's it. And then they realize, and I think what happens is a lot of politicians go in there thinking they're going to change the world and then realize, oh, I can't get shit done unless I scratch his back, shake his hand, make this deal under the table, because all I want to do is get this passed and next thing you know, like, I don't know how many fucking Illinois governors we have busted, like taking money constantly. And like having all these backup funds. Like I think our new guy, the Bogoyevich dude, he's fucking like during COVID-19, he was charting private jets off of us so his wife could go to Florida.
Well, how many
sprees or some bullshit like that? I don't know
many
the exact
politicians
thing, so don't quote me on that.
Giant corporations that took out PPE loans that were totally forgiven.
Yeah.
Like, and that's both sides of the aisle. Like, we're not talking like, oh, it's just the Republicans or just the Democrats or anything like that. Everybody took out PPE loans that were forgiven by the government. Yeah. So,
and I'm not
paying for a politician's private jet over paying for somebody's education. I'm totally going to pay for their education.
Right. I'm not trying to incite a riot or incite violence, but something needs to change. Like we need to realize that there are more hardworking, good Americans out there than there are politicians. It goes back to that whole, A Bug's Life, where they figured out like, hey, if those ants figure out they outnumber us, we're screwed.
Ooh, you're talking insurrection, John.
I know. And I'm not trying to. I'm just saying and I feel like now more than ever, everybody's out for themselves because they realize, fuck, we can't trust these guys.
Yeah.
We got an old man puppet out there who's pretending he's the president.
And honestly, if you are one of these people that's all for an insurrection and overthrowing a government, no matter who's in charge, just to put the control back into the people, you're not going to agree with all the people that you're going to war with. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you've got the same fucking thing over again. Yeah. So
I just know one thing, and it's proven through the time in history. It's even proven in stories like Game of Thrones that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. In the Game of Thrones, it's all about that fucking chair. And in our world, it's all about a fucking dollar bill. How much dollar bills can I put in my pocket to make me rich? Period. And if I have to, I don't know, spit on the little guy, what do I care? I'll be rich.
Yeah.
That's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm not saying I'm better than the next person or anything like that. I'm not trying to even get up on a soapbox, but guys, like, I don't know. This, you find out one thing like this, and then there's 2 months later, you find out somebody else is getting screwed. That I just found out that thing about the military. That fucking sucks, man. It feels like,
that was terrible.
Why would you go to the military? So they can just point and click you somewhere. Really?
Yeah. And these were, I mean, the people that were really getting screwed were like military leaders.
Yeah.
Like people that were literally giving the best years of their life over to the military.
Fighting for a cause that they believe just. And it's like they have to talk themselves into it now.
Yeah.
Like, no. I'm going to be in there because, like, I'm going to do my best and try to be what America should be. They're all trying to be Captain Americas, and I salute every one of them. But fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, I heard that we're not the greatest country. We're just the most powerful one because of our military.
I would not necessarily argue with that.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know this is like all of a sudden I've turned into American bashing.
No, like
that's not
social media will let you know like what it's like to live in other countries. And I hate to say it, but other countries have it a lot smoother than we do.
In some areas, and some they don't.
Well, in some countries, but I mean, you hear about Switzerland and Germany, and everybody's like, oh, but they place so many high taxes. I'm like, yeah, and look what they get for it. Like it's,
I'm not that educated with that.
But, I can show you stuff on that later. But
right. But
anyway, we're at time, bud.
Yeah, we're at time.
Because we're just gonna keep spinning our wheels on.
You're right. So Greg, sign us out.
Especially since we know on social media that people think they can say whatever they want. Please, if you have a differing opinion with somebody, you can share your side of things. You can share your thoughts, but don't be a douche, because if you are, you're just yelling into the void. You're not going to change anybody's mind. You're not changing that person's opinion. All you're doing is garnering negativity.
Correct. So
there you go.
Yeah. Better. Well said. For the Greg, this is Johnny saying, podcast out, everybody. Take care. And I promise you it's going to be a chipper episode next time.
Maybe.
See ya. What happens in the world. See ya.